Steve paints. Last week, we took a deep dive into Jake, and the week before that, we spoke about Tulip and yellow in general. In this third week, we got Michael in the character spotlight. Michael is friends with both Tulip and Sabrina. He was introduced to us at the beginning of chapter 1. He's in a supportive role and is happy for Tulip to have ended her relationship with Jake. The friendship he shares with Tulip is serious and he cares about her a lot. Meanwhile, with Sabrina, he has a more playful friendship. Michael is diplomatic, pretty chill, and well-grounded. However, at the end of chapter 2, it has been shown that he is capable of losing his temper. Despite the argument he had with Jake, he still remained in control of his emotions. But the ending scene of chapter 2 showed that Michael can step up, if needed, and fight for what he believes in, or for those who he holds close. He got a strong will, to say the least, and that's what makes him quite a fun, yet comfortable character to write about. Michael comes from a family that takes education seriously. While Michael thinks he is well off with his grades, according to chapter 2, it seems like his family expects and even demands more from him. He understands that his family wants the best for him, even if at times he longs to take it easy. Out of the 4 yellow characters, Michael is the tallest and got the longest fur. If he didn't shave or trim that fur as often as he would be a definition of a ball of fluff that just got 4 paws as legs, accompanied with the nose and the tips of his ears. Because he cares about his looks, he takes the extra time to tend and treat his fur. He isn't obsessed with how others perceive him, but instead does it because he's confident in how he appears and is happy with his looks. This drawing was actually my least favorite out of the 4 illustrations I drew of the yellow characters at the time of drawing it. Despite that, I now have begun to learn and appreciate it the way it is. How come I didn't like it immediately? Basically, the decisions I did for the shading and highlights were something I second-guessed for a while. I wanted to try something new, and I felt like because I was going for cool-toned highlights, I wanted to do the shading in a warmer, reddish, and/or orange hue. I don't use warm red or orange for shading a lot, unless it really fits the occasion, since it has a tendency to turn out a little bit muddy and dirty looking, at least to my eye. However, I suppose that the muddiness outlook worked out in my favor. When I was showing this drawing to one of my friends, she said that she actually likes the shading because it makes the white look natural, instead of artificially pure. That was the comment that stuck with me and helped me to view this drawing in a more positive light. I suppose you could even call that a happy accident. Minus the shading dilemma, I actually enjoyed working on this piece a lot. By the time I got into drawing Michael, I had gotten comfortable using the Gaumon S620 tablet that I used for these 4 yellow illustrations. I recall that his line art was the fastest that I completed out of the 4. The pose that I sketched Michael into was one of my favorites. I sketched it out with an idea that Michael is looking down at Tulip, while Tulip gazes up at him. While their gazes don't align exactly eye to eye, I wanted Michael to focus on Tulip, while Tulip is more so admiring the surrounding view. Of course, these characters exist in a floating space, so what Tulip is exactly looking at? We will never know. But back to Michael, as Tulip already had her chance to be discussed. Michael's character design is actually one of the 2 white and black characters that I've ever created. I'm not sure if there are actually more OCs of mine that are classified as white and black. But regardless, the point is that Michael is one of the very few white and black characters that I have created, and it feels so absurd, since white and black cats are very common in real life. There's no specific reason as to why I decided that he is going to be white and black. But since I went with that coloring, I wanted to play around with his patches. I tried to keep his patches simple yet intriguing. One way to achieve some interest in his lack of color, I gave him the most varying toe patterns out of the yellow characters. His right front paw is one of my favorites to draw, since I always get that visual satisfaction of him having white toes accompanied with only one black toe. As I mentioned earlier, Michael got a long fur, meaning that his cheek fluffs were something I wanted to extend since day one. While I didn't exactly nail it 4 years ago, I feel like he has been gradually gaining more length to his cheek fluffs. The texture of his fur is silky smooth, so while he got a long fur to deal with that grows at a rapid rate, at least grooming it isn't that big of an issue to him. He's one of those who wake up with a perfect haircut in the morning. As the last speed paint that featured Jake didn't have any questions included, this time I'm including 2 questions into this video. The first question is, if we want to do fan art of your yellow characters, but we don't have DeviantArt, where can we send them to you? This question was asked by Snowheart on YouTube. First of all, thank you to anyone who has or feels inspired to draw fan art of yellow. It means a lot to see how the story can inspire artists and how other artists draw the characters and interpret the story. If you want to do fan art of yellow, you are allowed to do that. Other places than DeviantArt, where you can post the fan art to, are, for example, Instagram and Twitter. You can tag me with @CuteFlare on Instagram or @ChippyFlare on Twitter to ensure that I see it. Another way to showcase the fan art is on YouTube, if you want to make a time-lapse or speed paint of it. One more place that comes to mind is on my server. I have a yellow fan art specific channel for those who have yellow role on my server. If you want to hear general updates of yellow or want to draw in your fan art, the link to my server can be found from the description. If neither of the 5 available options works out for you, I will place my email into the description where you can directly send the fan art to me. You can also find all my social media linked in the description directly. On DeviantArt, when Chapter 3 starts to be posted, I'm planning to start featuring yellow-specific fan art in the descriptions of the pages. There are already quite a few that deserve to be showcased. Thank you all so much for drawing, or if you plan on drawing any of the yellow characters. The second question I got is from my friend, Dal. He asks, does Michael groom his fur alone, or do he need the entire squad to do it? So far, he does the job all alone, yet doesn't mind if somebody happens to help him out. Currently, as he got quite a short fur to maintain, he's easily done in a couple of minutes, rather than spending hours from a day to do that. And that's all the questions I got this time. If you want one last chance to include questions regarding yellow or its characters into the final character speed paint, feel free to submit them to the comments below. He is Michael, the supportive character of yellow. This was the 3rd out of 4 speed paints I got for you of yellow. Next week, Sabrina will be in the spotlight. I hope you all enjoyed this speed paint as much as you did the 2 last ones with Tulip and Jake. If you happen to miss the last speed paint with Jake, I will put it at the end card. You can also find my review of the Gammon S620 tablet that I used for drawing this illustration. If you're curious to hear my deeper commentary regarding the tablet, please check that video out. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you all next week for the final Spotlight Speed Paint. And please stay safe, wash your hands, and have a good day or night.